Hey everybody, welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, we're men of a certain age.
Yeah. Yes. Of a certain age, yes. Don't remind me. My age might be a little...
It comes up frequently on the podcast, but we remember a time before smartphones.
Oh, yes, we do.
Before mobile phones of any kind, for that matter.
Absolutely.
Flip or otherwise.
The only mobile device I had was a boombox.
There you go.
If that gives you any indication.
Pre-tablets, pre-laptops.
Oh, yeah.
We remember a time when if you wanted to work or communicate in any digital fashion, whatever you were using had to be plugged into something.
That's absolutely.
Had to be wired up. It wasn't something you could take on the go. You couldn't do it on the go. Yeah. Now, maybe we might be a little nostalgic for that from time to time. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Simpler world. But
I kind of like my mobile world.
I do too. Exactly. I agree. Yeah. So that's just it. It is a mobile world. So today we're talking about mobile device solutions. We're talking about the market trends, opportunities. We got Zebra's Eric Hilton joining us today.
Nice.
We're going to dive deep in a couple of things here. We're going to talk about how mobile computing's changed. Has the smartphone, personal device market affected the enterprise mobility market and what we're dealing with out there? We're going to talk about one of our latest surveys on BlueStar Nation.
Nice.
Which there will be a link in the notes to check that out if you want.
Always quality info.
Really good information we got about mobility solutions being used by providers out in the workforce.
Yep.
We're going to talk about finding new opportunities for mobile solutions where they might exist, where you might be able to go out and win some new business.
It's got to be everywhere at this point, right?
I would hope so.
I mean, opportunities abound. Come on.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we'll also talk a little bit about CBRS. We'll talk about Zebra's mobility DNA.
I see.
So we got we got lots of good topics to cover here.
Citizen ban, yes.
That's right.
There you go.
Not the old CB radio.
No.
Niner,
10-4
over and out. Yeah. I think we're a little more complicated than that.
A little bit
these days. But that's why we brought Eric on here to be the expert to explain this stuff to us.
Good.
All that plus our usual VAR value. What's tech connecting with us? It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our guest today is Eric Hilton. He is the Zebra Regional Portfolio Manager for mobile computers and tablets. Again, not somebody that doesn't know something about what we're talking about.
He lives and breathes mobility.
This is his
every
life.
Day.
Yeah, exactly. He's quite happy with our new mobile world. He's excited about
Absolutely.
it. Eric, thanks so much for joining us on the show today. We appreciate having you. Tell us a little about yourself, your background. How'd you get to where you are at Zebra?
Yeah, well, thank you. I love the setup. I love the topic. Let's be very clear about that one. Again, as you mentioned, Eric Hilton. I'm a regional portfolio manager focused on North America, focused on mobile computing and tablet. It's a lot of words to stage up what I get to do here. In a nutshell, I get to focus on device strategy. So when we start to talk about mobile computers, when we start to talk about our tablets, basically anything that runs an operating system here at Zebra, there are roughly 30 different devices that make up our enterprise mobile computing and tablet portfolio. I get to focus on our go-to-market strategies. I also get to focus on our voice of customer around that portfolio. Zebra is a customer-first organization. We are always driving to solve, deliver business outcomes, solve our customers' challenges, deliver more connectivity and more asset visibility to the personas that are actually holding devices and to workflows that our customers are looking for. I get to be that central point of feedback as it relates to our mobile computing and tablet portfolio. I don't do it alone. We've got a big team that gets to focus on this, but across North America, I get to ensure that all of our customers and all of our partners, all of our phenomenal distributors get that voice and get the ability to come to us and say, you know what? I hope the next generation has private 5G, CBRS. I hope it looks like this. Those are the kinds of things where I start taking notes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, then, again, we got the perfect person for this conversation. Someone that lives and breathes in this world and understands what it's for. So then let's get into this conversation about where we are with mobile computing now. And again, as we talked about up top, we've come a pretty long way.
Yep.
I remember working back in retail back in the day and using the old giant symbol, mobile computer with, a little barcode scanner and tiny little screen, green screen kind of to read some stuff on it.
Yep.
And now Meanwhile, everyone's carrying computers around in their pockets every day for our own personal lives.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Like, how has this increase in smartphones, the consumer tablets, the personal devices that people are so used to every day, how has that affected the enterprise mobility market? Is it hurting things? Is it helping out? Is it creating a little more familiarity with these devices in general?
Yeah, I too got to live that progression. While I wasn't in the industry at the time, I had some family members that were in the industry. So I got to see all those devices coming into the house and being able to play around with them and see. And I was the kid that I wanted to test it, and I wanted to make sure that if it set a 4-foot drop spec, that it lived up to the 4-foot drop spec. I was that guy that played around with it and threw it out the second story window and all that fun stuff. And so I got to watch kind of that progression. And you're right. Let's call it out. The green screen, the mobile computer that all had fixed keys. And now take a look at the device that's in our pocket that all of us are carrying. Odds are it doesn't have fixed keys on it. Odds are it's a touchscreen enabled device. And so that's where really this proliferation of technology in the consumer space has both, I would say, helped and hurt, or given us an opportunity. Let's put it that way, as it relates to technology. The technology curve doubling every 3 years. Gosh, it feels like performance capabilities double every year anymore. We're just moving so fast. We're getting new chipsets and new screens and new cameras and new everything. The consumer world has a lot to do with that. Because that device churn, there's an opportunity to get a new device into a user's hands every other year, every year sometimes. Everybody wants faster connection, more information at the time they want it, in the palm of their hand, put it in their pocket, and be able to take it and run with it. The devices in our pockets are more capable than some of the supercomputers we had at that point. So you start to see that proliferation of incredibly strong performance in an incredibly small package. So that's helped because we've been also able to take advantage of some of those technologies and some of that capabilities as it proliferates to the consumer world. We immediately start looking at and investing in what it's going to mean and what we can leverage in the enterprise world. What business outcome, what work focus, what product or workflow efficiency can we gain by leveraging this technology? We're always focused at the enterprise. That's all we focus on. We don't develop for consumers. We don't develop around consumer needs. But gosh, when something comes out in the consumer world that we want to take advantage of and provides a business outcome, we're going to jump all over it. So that's how it's helped, is it's given us more tools in the toolbox to be able to take advantage. I will say from a obstacle perspective or an opportunity perspective, that technology, where historically consumer technology really didn't have a place in the enterprise, we're seeing more and more capable devices. We're seeing more capabilities around putting a third-party case on the outside and saying it's rugged, or being able to have that technology in your pocket to turn a device on and run an application. That's really the minimum viable product. That's really the core base that we start with. And then we start to stack things on top of it that differentiate between a consumer and an enterprise. But it's that, we'll call it good enough aspect, where a lot of our customers look at the incredibly low entry price with a consumer grade smartphone, and they convince themselves that, you know what, that's good enough for my enterprise, without thinking through all those additional challenges of what happens if it breaks, or what happens if the battery no longer lasts like it used to, or what happens if the operating system isn't supported. Zebra really tries to take those technologies and create that consistent, easy, expectable deployment that our customers know what they're going to get. They know they can rely on it for years to come, sometimes a decade to come, without any gotchas, without any surprises down the road. So that's really where, it's certainly helped. Let's be very clear about that. When we take a look at some recent surveys and some things like that, there's 168 million workers in the U.S. That's a U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics statistic. Now, I will tell you, right now, there's roughly 100 million of those workers with a piece of technology in their hands. That's expected to continue to grow. where we're looking for more connectivity to more parts of our organizations. And all of our customers are saying, how do I get just-in-time information? How do I get tasks delivered to an associate more quickly? Technology is a requirement there.
Yep, so much to unpack there. A good history of kind of mobilization there, but you're right. I mean, in the sense that there's good and there's bad that has come from this, right, Eric? I mean, when you think about it, some of the positive impacts are there. I mean, obviously now the whole mobility initiative and being able to really take what would normally be quote unquote deskless workers, people that didn't, sit at a desk all day long, but now you're empowering them with mobile compute on the edge, out and about where they're at, whether they're on a warehouse floor or whether they're doing field service or things of that nature. I mean, clearly a positive impact that has come out of that. But what I'm sensing, and I think Eric touched on a little bit, is, if I was an IT person 15 years ago, and then you have this onslaught of consumer products being asked to be implemented into your enterprise, nightmare. Oh, yeah. You've got security nightmare issues. You've got, just productivity issues in the sense that consumers' devices are not built the same as enterprise. And so I think Eric was really kind of, zoning in on the importance of having enterprise. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, right? But I really think that is starting to manifest itself out in the marketplace. There's truly a divide between consumer products and what they can do or what they're designed to do and enterprise grade, and the ability for IT departments to feel secure in the deployment of these devices and how it's going to interact with their networks that they're accountable for, right? At the end of the road. And so that, that equilibrium needs to be there. And I think it's really important to have that enterprise level conversation, right? Are you starting to see a lot more, Eric, around the security, asset, just that one aspect alone, right? And the ability to lock down the device and have certain controls over it that you really can't have when somebody's using a dual use. It's my personal phone on, after 5 o'clock, but from 8 to 5, it's okay. Yeah, I'll run these apps for you type of thing. Are you hearing a lot on the security side, Eric?
Oh, absolutely. That's an everyday conversation. And just look at the new titles that have been created. Chief Security Officer. Look back 5 years, 10 years ago, that role didn't exist. That highlights how important security is. The great thing about connectivity is that, and a connected workflow and a connected device, is I can have all that great information at my fingertips. Well, from a security perspective, I've got to lock down all that information that it doesn't get into the wrong hands or anything like that. And we hear about data breaches all the time, unfortunately. And so that's where most of our customers look for that multi-level security to be able to put multiple layers between that data to protect it and sharing just what's important, just what's required, so that ultimately, if something terrible does happen, then they're still protected. And so that's where our customers' security, I will tell you, is a very common thread in many of my customer conversations.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're kind of going back to the very beginning of what you were talking about, how you and your role is kind of the central point of feedback, right? So you're part of the mechanism where you're hearing from people out in the field and trying to bring that feedback back to your engineers about what they do. What are some other things that you're hearing from a device standpoint? Is 5G, and I know we're going to get into it, but is that having, that's having a bit of a run right now, right? Are there other modules or other things that I guess the world is asking of the enterprise mobile devices to do today?
Yeah, I'll say broadly, I hear customers asking for more. Yeah. I've got this incredible platform in my pocket. What else can I do with it?
I see.
Gone are the days where it's just interfacing to an AS400 and utilizing green screen to process a pick or whatever. Yeah. Most of our customers recognize the capabilities of the platform. And so now, where historically they were running 2, 3, maybe 4 apps on a device, we've got customers that are running 30 or 40 apps on their devices that their users are trying to, it's their time clock, and it's their interface into training videos, and it's their interface into the benefits and the HR systems, and it's their communication device. So now I can run telephony and not just see my tasks or anything like that, but I can also communicate with a manager, even if they're in the other side of the building or another state or another country. I can get the help when I need it, where I need it. And so those folks are all coming to us saying, okay, I've got this platform. I deployed it for this one very specific use case. But whether it's from a device convergence, I don't want my users carrying extra things, or it's from a workflow enhancement and expansion. Now I want to be able to do a different thing with it, a different task, a different capability. And the great thing is, these devices are incredibly powerful. That's one of the great things that's come along with that consumer proliferation of all touch enabled devices, is now we have the ability to say, you've got a great tool in your hands. Let's enable something else for your workers that are going to drive that business outcome.
Gotcha. So so now the engineers have to worry about the compute power that they got to put in there to facilitate all this, right? Yep. But I think that even manifests itself down even to the SMB markets, right? It doesn't. It's not just tier ones that are running maybe multiple applications on it. I would venture to say, and Eric, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but there's even down to the small to medium-sized businesses. They need to run multiple apps on these devices. These devices need to do more than just be the one-trick pony, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the second you hand let's use a field worker, a field technician that's out in the field, the second you hand them a device that's going to be their computing device and they're going to process tasks or take pictures or scan barcodes, whatever their workflow is. But I also need to be able to call them. Am I going to give them another device that's designed for me to call them on?
Right.
No, I can just do it all. I can converge all those devices. And now I have the ability, and what we're seeing is use the devices for more things, for more tasks, for more workflows, and let me use them in different modalities. I want to be able to put it in my pocket when I want to walk away. I want to be able to scan when I'm out in the field and connected to 5G or connected to Wi-Fi, whatever's available. But then, you know what, when I come back to my desk, I want to be able to put it in a dock, and I want to be able to have a larger screen, a mouse and a keyboard, and I want to be able to use it like a desktop. But it's those kinds of multimodal experiences where I want to do more and I want to interact with it the way I want to interact with the device, whatever's most convenient for the individual task that I'm doing. Because I'm not sure if you guys, I'm sure you've taken a look at the labor statistics in the job market. It's tough to find workers. Workers are doing more and more and more and more, and they can't just be siloed into this specific task, which means the technology has to support their diverse workload.
Yeah. Well said.
Well, I think that lends itself to something we've talked about several times on the podcast before too, which is the idea that because people are familiar with their smartphones, because they're used to having these devices in their pocket and they know what they can do, if you expect to hire someone in and say, all right, welcome aboard, here's the technology you get to use for your job, and it's clunky and outdated and does not have the kind of compute power, familiarity, or ease of use of the device that they carry around in their pocket every day, that's a turnoff. I mean, it's going. It's
sure.
I hate to say it, but at this point, I think there are people that legitimately would be like, "Yeah, I don't know that I want to work for this place." When they're still asking me to use incredibly outdated
a flip
stuff.
phone and
or they're giving me 5 or 6
pilot.
different devices to do all these things. Exactly. And granted, I'm sure that's not typically happening as much anymore. But the reason why I think we are where we are now and why Zebra's been able to move forward and move us into like touchscreen enterprise devices is because people got familiar enough with those and demanded that same kind of thing from their workforce devices as well. That's put us in a good position, I think, to be able to move forward. And I think if they're, we'll get into opportunities a little bit later, but I think if you're a VAR out there and you're still working with anybody who is maybe a little bit further behind the curve, I think that gives you a little more impetus to help push them forward. Be like, look, you might start losing workers over this kind of stuff. If you're not able to get on board with the latest technology.
Yeah.
Or we've got some data and some customers that came to us and they said, you know what? I know that when I get a new employee starting, on average they're there for X number of months. So, but it also takes them some number of weeks, months, whatever, to get trained up and get up to speed. So familiarity of the technology means that they're going to get trained up faster and they're going to get going faster. And to all the points that you made, completely agree with the points around, if I'm a worker and I'm coming into a new job, I want to know that I'm working in a tech forward environment.
Yep, right.
Number one. But also, as an employer, I want that new employee up to speed as fast as possible. And if they already know how to generally use an all-touch enabled device from a familiarity perspective, they're going to get up to speed a lot faster.
Yeah. And I think it's especially the case for younger workers. As the youngest generation start entering the workforce, you're going to have people that grew up with nothing but touchscreens and with nothing but that kind of technology. You try to give them something that's not that, they're like, what is this thing? What is this literal brick that you've given me? I don't understand how to use this. All right, well, Eric, let's talk a little bit about this survey that we did. So one of our most recent BlueStar Nation survey just came out last week. Actually, we went out and interviewed some field service companies. We got 100 field service companies that we specifically went after ones that were actively giving devices to their workers, that would buy devices for their workers and let them have them, whether it was enterprise or consumer. We wanted to understand a little bit more about, like, hey, what are you giving them? Why did you give this to them? What did you experience between consumer or enterprise that you liked better than the other? Where do you see some challenges? So I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to start with, there was, one of the questions where we specifically asked about challenges. So the question was, what challenges have you or technicians encountered with your devices? And we opened this one up for everybody, whether you were enterprise or consumer, or buying a little bit of both. You could answer this question. And then when I was going through the data to come up with this, I was like, all right, I want to see the differences between, specifically people who just gave consumer devices to their employees and those who just did enterprise. So on the whole, battery life and technical support were considered the two top challenges that they were experiencing with their devices.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep,
I don't think that's particularly shocking to anybody.
Well, battery life, right?
Yeah.
It's like always at the top.
Exactly. That's always something everyone's concerned about. So then I broke it down a little bit further, like, all right, let's find out, by segment of consumer versus enterprise. Well, battery life was surprisingly similar to both. So both, I think it's 54% of the consumer-only folks said battery life was their biggest challenge. 52% of the enterprise folks said that. Similar answers to those. A couple other ones that stood out to me is connectivity. So consumer was a little bit, more, said that was 43% said that was a big challenge. Enterprise was only 30%. But a couple places where I was surprised that the story got flipped a little bit was that enterprise users, 52% of enterprise users said that durability was a challenge for them in their devices, whereas only 36% of the consumer device providers selected that.
Interesting.
And then also on the on security and performance and reliability, there was also a slight edge to enterprise folks saying that there were more issues with those than the consumer. So I'm curious, Eric, from your point of view, what do you think it would attribute to that? Because I would think most of us would assume that people would get an enterprise device and say, all right, it's good, it's more durable, it's got better security, it's got better performance and reliability than a consumer device would. And yet this doesn't seem to indicate that. So I'm curious, from your point of view, do you think there's something behind that? Is that something you're seeing in other industries outside of just field service? And then also, if you have any other comments on that survey and anything else that stood out to you, tell us what you saw there.
Yeah, first off, I was impressed with the survey. I love that it stretched across small companies with a few employees all the way up to tens of thousands of employees. And it was a very diverse mix of every stage along the way. So it was a great grouping of customers that not just SMB, not just small to mid-sized businesses, not just these large, tier one customers like we called out earlier. It's a good mix of everybody. So I was really impressed with that. But the other, specifically to answer your question around the security and the rugged ability and things like that, we recognize that, rugged ability is one of those things that every customer's got just a little bit different needs. Every use case has just a little bit different needs. Arguably, outside the four walls, a field technician that's going to be out in the middle of a hurricane or in the middle of a hurricane, but hurricane disaster recovery or out in the elements is going to need a different level of rugged ability than somebody who's maybe going inside out of an office all day or going in and out to a truck all day. There's different levels of rugged ability. What I will say is we always try to position our portfolio as a tiered offering to say, you know what, we're not the experts in your business. You are. We'd love to learn more about your business. And once we understand more, then we're going to be able to help you identify the right device for the use case at the right ROI model. Because many of our customers come to us and they say, you know what, I recognize that I may need this device, but I really I want to go this route because of X, Y, Z. It's a complex solution. It's a complex scenario. I will say those customers that are concerned about security, probably everybody should be concerned about security these days. Everybody should have a strong, robust solution as it relates to updating devices, as it relates to making sure you're on the latest firmware patches and things like that, because ultimately that's where we are continuing to protect our devices. So those that, whether it's consumer or not consumer, consumer or enterprise, I would really lean in on both of those to make sure that we're right sizing the right device for the right use case. And again, protecting our customers obviously have a certain ROI that they're trying to deliver to.
It is an interesting survey, and in that particular part there, when it talks about, again, what the whole durability issue, and I, it got me wondering myself, but maybe the bar isn't as high on consumer products, like.
That
People
could
aren't
be
worried
right.
about consumer products because they just assume that they're
the expectation,
not.
Right.
That because, or if not, they need to meet my son because he's broken like 4 or 5, cell phones, and
or they've bought their giant OtterBox case or something for their consumer device to protect it. Yeah.
Whereas the durability might be a little bit more, the expectation a little bit higher there.
Right.
But it is interesting. And there were a couple other things about this particular survey that were very interesting as well. One that jumped out at me, and I wanted to kind of bring up here, is what we asked the question: what led to the purchase of either an enterprise or a commercial, a consumer device? And 57% said, well, the device was included in our wireless plan.
Yep.
And
for the
me,
consumer ones, yeah.
that was like an aha moment that I never really even thought about before. Like, if I'm a small to medium-sized business and I've got a plan with T-Mobile or Verizon or you name it,
right.
and they're just throwing phones at you, basically. Okay.
Here are 50 free phones for signing up a 5-year contract or something.
Eric, I hate to say it, but man, it's hard to compete against free sometimes, right?
It is. Yeah. And I we hear this one a lot, quite a bit of, it's great. I want what an enterprise device. I want a Zebra device, but hard to compete with free.
Yeah.
And so to your point, and so the conversation we've always focused in on, number one, is it free,
right?
Or is it included in the device in the cost of the contract? There's slight nuance there, but then ultimately, when we look at the device that we're offering and the device that's going into that solution, start to think about the cost of, if it breaks, that's going to cost you productivity. Buying another one. I hate to ask, but you've probably gone back and gotten 4 or 5 new phones for your son.
Oh yeah,
he's broken them.
Absolutely, right? Yes. We're on the insurance plan, so yes.
There's
an extra cost you have to
extra
there,
cost, absolutely.
Yeah. Put him on the poster for why you get that insurance plan.
That's right.
But at the same time, so start to think about if that were an enterprise worker and through the course of a year. They were out in the field and they dropped it 4 or 5 times. Well, it's not. I don't have one immediately ready to go in the truck, ready for them to just turn on and start using. So, what loss in productivity? What does that really cost us over time? The other point there is that most of the time those are 2-year devices, and so 2-year contracts. But most of our customers, if they're looking at a CapEx expenditure, most of them are trying to amortize a project across 3 or 5 years. And so a 2-year device without a lot of knowns and with plenty of unknowns in there where the device drops and breaks. How many are going to drop and break? It's a guess. Is my app always going to be supported on the next generation when I have to roll up to a new generation because I can't get the old one anymore? All of those things from a security perspective, how long are those going to get security patches? That's where we're always focused on consistency. And we're focused on pulling out some of those unknowns and creating a repeatable, consistent, long-term ROI that matches that solution. Now that's in a CapEx world. Through BlueStar and through plenty of our partners, we do also offer OpEx solutions where we can finance devices and make it look more similar. And to that offering that is device plus connectivity all in one monthly charge. We can start to do some things like that because some customers want to go down that OpEx type business model.
Way to tackle that question. If any VAR listening there, that he just gave you the bullet points of how to thwart,
your roadmap, yeah.
How to thwart that. Well, it just came with my data plan, type of thing. Well, okay, give it to your kid, but use an enterprise device for your field technicians, right?
Yeah, congratulations on your free phones that you got for your families. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I think the other one that stood out to me on here too, and this kind of was related to Eric, something you mentioned earlier, that if the people that are concerned about reliability and performance and security issues, if they're if they're out there updating stuff regularly, that shouldn't be as much of a problem. Well, that relates to another question where we did ask, do you have a platform for remotely managing software installation and security settings? Now, 62% said yes, which is great, but there were still 37% total between that said they either didn't and weren't planning to, or didn't and were hoping to do so at some point in the future. My bet, and I was literally trying to pull the data up here in Crosstab, but it's it's massive amount of data on the spreadsheet here. But I would be curious if the 37% of people that were saying they don't do any kind of MDM whatsoever are those that are also think there's bigger problems with security and reliability.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they're not actively out there updating these devices and getting them where they need to be. So,
well, and they're not locking them down. So what happens when that user wants to go download the latest game off the Play Store and play around with it or whatever? And that's a security vulnerability. A lot of those mobile device management tools or enterprise mobile management, EMM tools, MDM tools, whatever, the terminology that you're focused on, those solutions are really designed to help provide an extra layer of protection, as well as a means of updating devices and locking them down and remotely troubleshooting a device, so that now I can remote in and I can see exactly what that user's seeing. Maybe I can get that user back up and running while they're out in the field without having them stop their work, come back to a depot, or send in a device just to have a no fault found situation.
Yep.
And I would think also like, hey, there's a great talking point as a VAR to go out and have these conversations of, hey, when was the last time you did some updates? What have you currently been working on, when it comes to updating your devices? And if they're like, we, and then maybe ask the question like, all right, well, hey, do you have, people in an office environment that are working on computers that are networked together? Like, yeah, all right. Do you allow them to just download whatever they want, access whatever websites they want?
Right.
If you're locking that stuff down, then you should be locking down your mobile devices as well. There's an easy story to tell of why you do one as well as the other.
Absolutely.
Or do you have control over your updates?
Right.
Or do you just take whatever gets published, whatever gets pushed by the manufacturer?
Great point.
Version whatever of the operating system that comes out, is that going to break your app?
Yeah.
What happens if your entire fleet goes down because some change in that operating system doesn't work with your app? And now you're in a situation where everybody goes dark until you can get it back up and running. That's where consistency, repeatability, and the optional, I'm going to deploy this update when I know it's safe for my environment. That kind of control is where most of our customers are looking for.
Yeah. Look at the recent airline crisis. Like, hey, something that was a small update to a software crippled an industry for a day, basically. Like, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that can go wrong if you're not, if you're not paying attention to this stuff and not managing it properly.
It made for a good meme though.
That's
like an engineer, he's just leaving for the weekend. He's like, "Yep, hit press send."
Send
update.
This looks good. Send the update. Yeah, nothing bad will happen. I'll see you guys on Monday.
But it's an interesting case study for the loss of productivity and the cost
in
that downtime.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But it is painful, and I know you have these anecdotes, Eric, where somebody has to go through a painful moment like that. Like they either have. They've been using consumer devices, they get hacked in some way, or they're using an app that gets hacked and now they're exposed and their customers are exposed. And it just, it creates these, and you hate to be that person that says, well, I told you so, but, and a lot of times, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It far outweighs using enterprise than consumers. But
definitely,
we're a little biased in our opinion.
We are, yes. Well, and to that end, then, Eric. So let's say we've got VARs out there that are like, all right, I'm trying to go out and win some new mobile, business. I am working with Zebra. I know you guys have great products. I want to get this stuff out there. I know who my customers are that are hard set on consumer, and I'm doing everything I can to change them. But where else might they be able to go out and find new opportunities? What can help them win new business? Are there any industries or use cases that are growing faster than others that maybe people just don't think about right now or aren't talking about, where mobile devices are becoming more prominent than they were in the past?
Yeah, we're definitely starting to see. So first off, one opportunity that I see that I always start with my customers is who in your organization is connected, who's not connected. That's a big conversation starter around what does your workflow look like, and what do all the workflows look like. So knowing your customer is always the primary solution, in my opinion, of the primary focus, because knowing your customers, understanding not just their workflows, but also understanding their goals, understanding their ROI metrics, and understanding all the various workflows that they may have in their organization and all of their objectives. Mm-hmm. That's going to help to identify some of those areas, and that's also going to help to identify a long-term strategy that we can ultimately be a part of that solution. The better we can understand our customers, the better we can translate some of those desired outcomes into solution requirements. And then we can start to pick and choose the pieces, and the right pieces. There's plenty of solution opportunity out there. There's plenty of tools in that toolbox, for lack of a better term. And that's really where we try to offer as many and as broad a number of tools as available. And then ultimately, we help to pick and choose the right ones in the right use cases to deliver that right business outcome to the right persona that's carrying that device. And so now ultimately, where do I see growth and trends? We're seeing a ton of traction around RFID and around new types of connectivity. So we've got more and more of our customers coming to us recognizing that, is this the year of RFID? I'm not sure. We've been saying that for the last decade or so. Of this. We
declared it, Eric.
Yeah,
this was
declared
it right here.
We did. Yeah.
This is the year.
This is the year right now.
No, there's some mandates that have come out from some very large tier 1 retailers out there that are saying RFID is here. We're leveraging it because it offers efficiency, accuracy, inventory accuracy. It improves customer experience, and customer experience is everything these days, to make sure that I have the right inventory at the right time at the right place so that consumer can buy it. So that's number one. And that's going to have a lot of trickle effect into manufacturing, into just the RFID industry in general. We are watching a number of our customers recognize that wave and recognize that is coming, and they're going ahead and future-proofing their devices. Things that historically used to be two disparate solutions: a mobile computer over here and a fixed RFID reader, or maybe a mobile RFID reader. Now we're talking about converging those into one device and being able to utilize that common platform when I need RFID. So I know this is not an RFID focused session, but there could certainly be one because I think it's warranted to have another deep conversation about it. I believe it is impacting all of our customers' existing workflows, and it's also offering where historically it might not have been cost justified to implement. I think we're rapidly approaching that point where we need to take another look at that ROI model, because a lot of our customers are finding that ROI makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, we've been talking a little bit about that here recently as well. I'll lump in there, software applications as well. I mean, I think that there's opportunities. Obviously, you already touched on it, that the device itself is being asked to do more and more and more. And we advocate that resellers really need to have a better understanding of some of the software ecosystem that is being put on that device and how it interacts. Of course, we always talk about AI, and we can't go a podcast without talking about AI, so I'll bring it up. But you are starting to see some real world use cases of incorporating the use of a large language model, for instance, where workers can now interface with the device in a humanistic way, right? Using the language and stuff like that. So it'll be very interesting to see how some of those solutions manifest themselves, but they're presenting opportunities. And so again, it's incumbent upon the resellers to understand what's happening in the ecosystem. Yeah, I think on the software side.
Sure. And I think it's always just a good idea too to just go out and just revisit a lot of your customers and make sure that the ones that you thought were like dead set on, nope, I'm good with my consumer devices, I'm not changing, or nope, I'm not interested in RFID, I'm not doing this. just check back in with them. If you haven't talked to them about this stuff in a while, this is a good time to start having those conversations again.
Yep.
Talk to them about the new studies that are out there. Show them this data from this survey. Like, hey, you know, I saw this survey about what's going on in field services. Does that jive with what's happening in your
Absolutely.
world? Are you encountering these same things? Are these kind of things problems for you too? And letting that be your guide to figuring out where there might be some new opportunities out there. And again, also you mentioned the software angle too, just all the nuance I think that's involved in launching and maintaining mobile devices, whether it's having a conversation about remote device management, having a conversation about networking. We're going to talk a little bit about networks here in a moment. And I think there's maybe you're not in a place where you can get your customers to just wholesale swap out their devices for the latest and greatest Zebra device. Yeah. Sure, great if you can, awesome. Maybe it's more about some of those subtle things that you can start helping them work on in the peripheries that can improve that device and improve its performance and how it's being managed. And then, ideally put you in that position where when they're ready to make a switch at some point in the future, you're in a good place to have that conversation because you've helped them build the infrastructure around that to get them to the next level of device where they need to go to. So, Eric, let's wrap up here then, like talking a little bit about the network side of things. We mentioned up front CBRS, Citizen Band Radio Service. Talk to us about that a little bit because it's one of those things where I'll be honest, until like a year ago, I'd never heard of this particular type of network. In fact, it was a Zebra webinar that I co-hosted that, we brought your folks on to talk a little bit about it and explain some of your new devices that were going to be CBRS-enabled. So tell us a little bit about how it compares to 5G and Wi-Fi, and when should VARs be going out there and positioning CBRS-enabled devices? What should they be looking for?
Okay, so I'm going to take the last question first.
Okay.
Now, go out and talk with your customers now about private 5G, about CBRS. I will tell you, think back to the first time you saw a 5G commercial. And in the consumer world, you can go get this shiny new consumer phone with 5G enabled. When 5G proliferates to your area, it'll automatically connect to 5G. But realistically, 5G has just now proliferated and started really providing a lot of benefit. So when we start to think about the technology adoption curve there, it was a decade ago that we started talking about 5G. And we're really now, just in the last year or two, at the point where it's really providing meaningful impact. Now, the technology curve of private 5G, private LTE, CBRS, those are all generally synonyms. Most of our customers come to us asking one of those three things, and in general, they're referring to CBRS here in North America. Now, the technology curve 2 or 3 years ago, barely even a conversation. It was ratified in 2015 by the FCC, allowing access to these networks that were historically protected and utilized exclusively by the U.S. military, and now opening that up to enterprises and opening that up to other users. That passed Congress in 2015. So really, in that short time from here we're going to allow access to this. About 3 years ago, we started having conversations about it, with maybe one major deployment, maybe two now, and a lot of people asking us questions about it. Fast forward to now, I don't think I'm exaggerating here when I say it's 8 out of 10 customer conversations that I have. Our customers are coming to us saying, "What's your answer for private 5G? And help me figure this out. What is it? Can I use it? When can I use it? When should I use it?" Now, from a what it is perspective, for those that don't know, it's one of the topics that's near and dear to my heart. I've done some speaking and some webinars on it. It's one thing that I've taken the lead to learn quite a bit on. And think about your Wi-Fi network. Today, a Wi-Fi network and your implementation or your customers' implementations of a Wi-Fi network, they procure and buy the access points. They install them, they configure them, they manage them. It's a CapEx expenditure in most cases. I buy the infrastructure and I install it, or I have somebody else install it for me, but I manage it. Now, the opposite spectrum of that. Think about the public carriers. If you and I put in a 5G enabled smart SIM card into our smartphone, then I pay access. I pay to access that on a monthly basis. I don't worry about the infrastructure. I don't put up new towers. I don't own any of that stuff. I just get to access, and my device communicates with it. CBRS sits literally right in the middle, where I get to now go buy my own cellular tower, like I buy a Wi-Fi access point. And that's a little overgeneralized. It's a CBRS base station is what it's officially called. But very similarly to where I'm buying infrastructure in the Wi-Fi world, I can go buy my own infrastructure. I own the data. I own the traffic. I own the appliance. I install it. But where it really comes in and where it's really important is that I can light up roughly somewhere between 10 and 12 times the area with one CBRS appliance infrastructure, with one base station, compared to Wi-Fi access points. So I could replace 10 or 12 Wi-Fi access points with one base station. That's less cabling I've got to worry about. That's less installation issues that I've got to worry about. That also allows me to stretch coverage to historically Wi-Fi challenged areas. So think about outside the four walls. It's great to put Wi-Fi inside a warehouse, but I've got a yard that might be acres and acres of land that I need to now, that historically I would trench out into the middle of the lot and I would install Wi-Fi access points. Now I can just put a base station on the side of the building and light up that entire area. So that now when I'm in the building, I'm connected to Wi-Fi. When I'm outside the building but still on the property, I'm connected to my private 5G. I'm not paying a monthly service plan. I'm not worrying about any of that. I own the traffic. I own the appliance, just like I do in Wi-Fi. I can secure it the same way. It's actually more secure because I have to have a SIM card in the device, but it's my SIM card connected to my network. And then all of our devices also offer a dual SIM capability. So now when I drive off of that lot and I'm not in the same radio area, coverage area of my CBRS, then I default back over to the public networks. So it adds another layer of connectivity in that stack. Wi-Fi when available, if my customers want to go that route. Private 5G when Wi-Fi is not available, but I'm still on the same property. And then public 5G when I drive off the lot. It's going to extend our Wi-Fi connectivity areas. It's going to extend that connectivity out to Wi-Fi troubled areas. It's going to create a more secure environment because I have to say this device is allowed on my network through the use of a SIM card or an eSIM configuration. And then in addition to that, it segregates all of my traffic away from the public carriers. Think about hospitality environments. Think about the last time you went to a stadium and you went to an event with 100,000 of your friends, right? And you're all posting online. Everybody's streaming and posting onto the social media website of their choice and all that fun stuff. Well, if I'm the hospitality, if I'm that stadium, I've got an event to run.
Right.
I need security. I need medics. I need everybody to be able to communicate. So instead of worrying about lighting up Wi-Fi across an entire stadium, or instead of worrying about that cellular connectivity bogging down that network in that environment, now I can completely segregate my traffic and I can put it on private 5G and CBRS. And now I can communicate without any interference from the public whatsoever.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And you can see why it's getting quite a bit of a run at this point. And I would agree with you, Eric. We're seeing a lot more interest. We've brought in some additional vendors to fill in the gap in our BlueStar's portfolio on the 5G and being able to handle these types of things. And so it is interesting, though, right? I mean, 5-10 years ago, not really a conversation at all. To your point, one installation, one use case. Now, a lot of chatter around it, and because it does have some of those benefits. I mean, I think the security is a natural one, right? It's one of those natural things, and then the ability to get outside of the four walls. I mean, it's opening up a lot of opportunities when you get into the yard, when your field service techs are getting outside of your four walls, and then being able to seamlessly bridge between public and private, and it's just. it's creating this frictionless world, right? That we need, really.
Yeah. And I'll, again, a little plug and preview on the survey. We did ask some questions about CBRS there as well. I'm not going to give you the data here. I want you to go check it out for yourself, but you can learn a little bit about who is familiar with those networks, how many were actually using it, and some of the benefits they saw out of it. So I think there was some good additional context there. Yeah. And I link out to that webinar I mentioned so you can learn a little bit more about Zebra's investment in CBRS networks too. So,
nice. Yep.
All right. Well, hey, before we wrap things up and let Eric talk a little bit more about some, how Zebra's helping you go out there and really build out your mobility business.
Yes. I
want to, as always, thank our sponsors here on the TEConnect podcast, of which Zebra is one, of course.
Absolutely.
They've sponsored our TEConnect program and our show for a very long time now.
Yep.
We very much appreciate their support, appreciate them lending us Eric today to chat about and have this conversation. Hey, if you like the show, you got to let us know. Let's say you're watching on YouTube right now. Leave us a comment. Drop a comment in there. Not a comment where you're critiquing us and telling us how awful we sound and how dumb we sound about something. Yeah, only the good comments.
Only the good stuff.
At least every once in a while, I like to see a nice, pleasant comment in there. Make sure you're liking the episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening on any kind of audio, podcast platform of your choice, if there's an option to leave a rating or review, please do that. Take a moment to do that. Do that for all of your favorite podcasts. It's a great way to let them know, one, that you like the show, what you like about it, but it kind of helps, the algorithms when it comes to podcasts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For other people to find them when there's lots of good ratings and reviews.
Yeah, you know how
shows.
this works. Yeah. If people are doing that, then other people see you.
Exactly. Yeah. So please do that if you get a chance. And also share it with a friend, with a colleague, someone that's interested, who might be interested in a particular topic we've covered. Feel free to share those out there. And hey, as always, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you're interested in hearing about on the show, what kind of topics you would like us to cover, guests you'd like to hear from, vendor partners you want us to get to bring on and talk about things.
Yes.
But the only way we know how to do that stuff and what you want is if you tell us. Dean and I will make up new stuff to talk about every week.
Yes.
We have
We've
no
been doing
problem
it for
with
years.
That. Yeah, exactly. We're 200 episodes plus of just finding stuff to talk about, so we're happy to keep doing it. But
you can have a voice.
Yeah, you can have a voice for this to be a podcast that you want to hear about. So reach out to us. You can always find us on BlueStar's social media pages, Facebook and LinkedIn. You can also email us at any time, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up. A little VAR value to kick us out to the door here.
There you go.
So Eric, talk a little bit about mobility DNA. I know that's Zebra's kind of platform for for mobility, and you guys do a great job at not just selling the devices, but making it easy for VARs and for their customers to actually go out there and get the most that they need out of them. So explain a little bit about that and how it helps the VARs to go out there and win business, and not just win it, but actually keep the business too.
Yeah, and it's most evident against consumer. So anytime we're talking about consumer, that's where mobility DNA really plays its strongest suit. Mobility DNA, just in general, represents, and in summary, represents over 14 years of continued development and investment into the Android platform. So every time you pick up a mobile computer and you say, or anything that runs an operating system, and you say, okay, it's great, but I need to quickly configure this device, or I need to lock it down. I need to make it more secure. I need to make it easier to interface my own apps into how I access that. All of those software tools that make it easier to use a device, easier to manage a device, optimized from an efficiency perspective, locked down from a security perspective, or simple and easy to configure. And even if it's just enrolling it in the MDM tool, it's still as simple as scanning a simple barcode. And now I'm connected to Wi-Fi and I'm staging that device. All of those things come into play as it relates to mobility DNA. And I will tell you, it is always voice of customer driven. So we talk about investments. We talk about new devices and how we're a customer first organization. That is incredibly evident in our mobility DNA strategy, in that we are constantly hearing from customers, gosh, you know what? It'd be really cool if we could have this feature inside Android. I've got a great example. I had a customer come to me about 6 months ago. He said, you know what? In Phoenix, in July, it's really hot. And I'm inside the cab of a truck, and I'm charging the device all day long because it's mounted on the dash, and I'm charging it. But charging a mobile device, charging any device, generates a little bit of extra heat. I'm sure you've all, all of you, when your device charges to 100%, it takes a lot of energy to make that lithium ion battery get up to 100%. So I'm in a hot truck, I'm in a hot environment, and I'm creating extra heat by charging the device to 100. But I don't need 8 hours or 12 hours of battery life. Can I just tell the device that 65% is fully charged? Stop charging at 65%. The answer is yes, absolutely. We developed the feature. It's now available on every single Zebra device. It's called Charge Manager. And now, simply using our MX extensions, you can go in and you can say, you know what? 65% is the new 100% fully charged. Now, it's those types of real world aspects that we're trying to deliver business outcomes around. And that's where those features and those capabilities, those 300,000 lines of extra code that we've written on top of standard Android, not separate from standard Android, but on top of standard Android. So now any Android app is going to run on our device. It's not proprietary or anything like that. But then you get to stack mobility DNA on top of it. And now your customers get to recognize that easier management, that more secure operating system, that ease of use around our device, and controlling more of our device, controlling more settings and things like that than any consumer Android ever could offer you.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets you even stickier with your clients when you're using the mobility DNA. There it is.
That's right.
Yes. I like it.
I just like the fact that it's the DNA. Like, the idea of being, it's the building blocks.
Yeah.
The building blocks of life was the building blocks of your mobility solutions there. Yes. So good stuff.
300,000 lines of code? Did I hear you right, Eric?
Like, you didn't have to do all that yourself, did you, Eric?
I did. My spare time. No, there's people that are far smarter than I am that are focused on executing on that.
Fair enough.
Awesome.
Fair
Impressive.
enough. That's cool.
All right, let's wrap up as always with What's Tech Connecting with You. This is our favorite segment where we get to talk about something in the world of business, tech, science, innovation, just something we feel like chatting about this week.
Yep.
Eric, I'll let you kick it off. What's Tech Connecting with You right now?
I'm going to say a buzzword. I'm sorry in advance.
Have at it.
AI, I think, has the biggest opportunity for transformation. And I know it is one of those things where everybody's talking about it, and it's becoming synergistically a buzzword in our verbatim here, but ultimately, or in our vernacular here. Sorry for the wrong word there. But at the same time, I think there's opportunity for us to work more efficiently as companies. So us being solution providers, our VARs being solution providers. How can we do the same job or even better job more efficiently? How does AI improve the efficiency around our business? Number one, we're investing in some tools to make our day-to-days more efficient. Number two, how are we enabling our customers to go develop around their own AI tools using AI-enabled chipsets and using more powerful devices that can do AI right on the device? So here's the platform. Good luck. Go work on it. You go develop your own tools. And then in addition to that, we're going one step further and we're developing tools ourselves that are going to be able to, we'll call it a Ask Zebra type of a solution. What happens if I say, you know what? Hey, Zebra, give me the inventory on the back of the truck right now. Boom, and read out that inventory. Those kinds of things, being able to ask a device, being able to drive a business outcome or a more efficient workflow, utilizing one of those tools that we're developing around. So I hate to overgeneralize a buzzword there, but I think there is a huge opportunity for us around leveraging the capabilities of AI and transforming it from that buzzword nature into those business outcomes, because I think there's the potential there. And I think that's only going to increase over the next few years. I think we're going to see a pretty significant transformation in just about every workflow.
Isn't that is crazy? I mean, that's why we talk about it all the time. The headlines are the AI generated whatever video that shows something ridiculous out there that would never really happen. But the reality is, where the rubber hits the road, business is going to start applying a lot of AI because of everything. It just makes us more efficient, better workflows, et cetera.
Yeah, I agree. On the buzzword topic, I figured AI has officially reached peak saturation when there's now a new horror film coming out about AI.
Oh, really? And what is it called? I just saw some trailers called
Afraid, where the A and the I and the Afraid are like in italics in the title, so you know that it means AI.
There it is.
Or something. Yeah.
Yes.
That's how you know that technology has become ubiquitous when we start creating horror franchises built around it now. So, all right, D, what's TEConnecting with you right now?
All right, man. What would you do if your neighbor dumped thousands of bags of trash in your yard?
I'd be a little miffed.
Eric, would you be a little upset if somebody's just dumping thousands of bags in your yard of trash?
I would be, but I've got a great customer that I can call to solve that problem.
Well, fair enough.
Hey, there you go.
But I am intrigued by North Korea continuing to dump. Have you heard about this? Oh, you haven't heard about this?
I don't think I have.
Oh, my gosh. So North Korea is literally tying bags of garbage to balloons and sending them over to South Korea. They've been doing this in waves. Eric, have you heard of this yet?
I haven't, and I'm trying to figure out what their desired outcome is.
That's exactly where I'm at. Oh, I can't believe you guys haven't heard about this. So no. I'm being dead serious. They have sent waves of trash over. I'll give you that. The first wave started in May, 3,500 bags of trash, and think of it as like a really, a pretty big trash bag.
Right.
They send
not
wave
just like
one
your
came
bathroom
over.
trash can.
Couple weeks later, 330 more bags of trash. Couple days after that, another 310. So it has been thousands of bags of trash, and you might be asking yourself, well, what is in the trash, by the way? Well, the balloons contain everything from fertilizers to batteries to cigarette butts to clothes to soil. I mean, it's literally
like bags
of trash, that they're sending over. And in North Korea's Kim Jong-un, I believe, and in the party, actually it was Kim Yo-young, the sister of Kim Jong-un, is the one who has described these balloons as, quote, gifts of sincerity to South Koreans. And so,
wow.
Is it, what is the commentary here? Is it like the society thinks that, you know what, we don't really have a lot that we can attack you with, so we're just going to tie up bags of balloons of garbage bags and send them over to you.
Are we supposed to be terrified of North Korea becoming a nuclear superpower, and yet they're just tying trash to balloons?
That's what they're doing. Yeah, and they're sending them over to Seoul. Now, it has flummoxed South Korea a couple times because they had to close down their airport, because when you have these waves of balloons of trash coming over, they had to shut that down. It's really kind of a nuisance, but what it has also done is reawakened South Korea's ire, I guess. Now they used to not have like speakers projecting anti-communist.
It's like we're starting another little Cold War between them here.
So they're firing up all those machines again now because of this, because they keep sending their trash over.
They are totally like just the warring neighbors, like the neighbors that are just, somebody cut someone's tree that hung over the fence one day.
That's it.
And it's just this escalation.
Yeah.
Until suddenly you're both in jail somehow.
That's why when I read the headline, I'm like, this has to be fake. I mean, it has to be like this AI generated story, right? No. They're sending trash over. So if you happen to get a random bag of trash that is ballooned into your backyard, now you know where it came from.
Shaking my fist in the clouds like, damn, you're in North Korea. Yeah.
Does that create an opportunity for every 10 and 12-year-old with a BB gun?
I would think so, yeah.
Just go target practice
there you
on
go.
some balloons before they cross the border?
That's right.
Well, I mean, right? I mean, well, I guess
the trash brigade or something.
The Chinese were using that too against us, right? They floated the whatever they had underneath those. What's with balloons?
Well, I was saying,
why are balloons making
it used
a
to
comeback?
be propaganda, in a lot of war zones, dropping propaganda
leaflets.
on troops or whatever. Leaflets,
and then leaflets everywhere, right?
Now just trash.
It's just trash.
We don't really have anything to say. We just don't want this junk in our country, So
does North Korea have an issue with trash removal?
They're a notoriously secretive country, so who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe all of their trash workers are on strike, or I don't know. Who knows?
So Eric, if you decide to do that against your neighbor, just say Kim Jong-un made me do it, and there you go.
Right.
So let's connect.
I'm sure that'll go over well.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the exact same thing.
TEConnecting.
That's a great excuse. All right. Well, are either of you fans of the Dune franchise? The Dune, either the more recent movies, the old David Lynch film.
Yes.
If you are, you might be familiar with in the movie the Fremen, the people who live on the desert planet of Dune.
Okay.
When they're out there in the desert, they operate in a suit called a stillsuit, is how they refer to it.
All right.
And basically, the idea behind it is that it's supposed to help essentially waste no moisture because you're in this desert environment. They're trying to survive, so it keeps all the moisture contained within the suit, recycles it back into potable water for them to use. And apparently, we've got some folks that are actually working on the real deal potentially for our astronauts to use.
Okay.
And basically, the premise being that when an astronaut goes out on a spacewalk, at best, right now with the most current suit, it's not much the time they have, and not so they typically carry 1 liter of water that's available in their in-suit drink bags. And they said this is insufficient for the planned longer-lasting lunar spacewalks, which can last 10 hours or even up to 24 hours in an emergency.
Yeah.
You don't want to be running out of water in those particular situations. So apparently between Cornell University has been working on trying to create some to... there's no better way to say this, to turn urine into potable drinking water. Which, as well as doing the moisture and sweat stuff too. So they've been working on some prototypes to kind of get us there. And again, Dune has been a bit of the inspiration for this because apparently, Herbert himself, in writing these books, had created, a kind of an explanation
of how
the still suits worked that really does kind of work, like they're kind of like, yeah, this actually could potentially, make some sense of how to make this potentially happen. There's also another company though, who they call themselves the, what are their names? The Hack something or other. Hacksmith Industries, who do fun one-day builds where they try to create stuff from pop culture. So they've done like Thor's axe from the Marvel movies, Captain America's electromagnetic shield. They've done lightsabers where they try to create pop culture electronics and technology and do it as quickly as possible and figure out how it could potentially actually work. Well, they designed one of these suits also. They didn't mess with the urine part of it. They just went for the sweat and moisture from breath to design with it.
Gotcha.
And they were able to come up with something that actually did somewhat functional way of doing this too. So potentially the astronauts of the future, maybe those poor folks that are stuck on the space station for a little while longer, thanks to Boeing, are gonna, maybe have a little more opportunity to drink some potable water that they can recycle for themselves. So fascinating way. I always enjoy stories where science fiction becomes science fact eventually.
Yes,
and it helps you realize like some of these brilliant authors and people making science fiction TV shows and stuff, whatever, come up with these ideas that 40, 50 years later
still work,
become actually practical, and things we can do in real life.
That is kind of cool. Yeah, there you go.
That is what's TEConnecting with us. Good stuff. Hey, Eric Hilton from Zebra, thank you so much for joining us today.
Eric.
Appreciate having you on the show.
Always appreciate the opportunity to join TEConnect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Definitely. It is time for us to unplug. Until next time, again, go out there and recycle some of your own bodily products, I guess, and moisture. Go out and explore the latest AI buzzwords. Watch out for North Korean trash.
Yes.
And hey, maybe go get your kid to go test out some mobile devices.
Nice.
Eric was the original proving squad. Remember we used to the BlueStar proving squad videos?
Yes.
That was Eric's job back in the day. So maybe we resurrect that at some point.
We should.
Have Eric come out and test some devices for us. So. And as always, folks, please stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by ELO and the 7-inch ELO Pay integrated payment POS system. ELO Pay packs all the power you need to run your point of sale. Complete with a 7-inch HD touch display, integrated payment, Android 12 OS, Qualcomm SD660 processor. The compact enterprise-grade terminal offers the modularity. You love modularity.
There it is.
That merchants require. You can dock it to a printer stand. You can place it on the counter. You can integrate it into the Z70 stand. Lots of different stuff you can do with this device.
You can put this thing anywhere.
Yeah. ELO Pay offers comprehensive payment services that enable merchants to process transactions with confidence. With access to multiple payment applications, end-to-end encryption, secure tokenization, robust terminal management services, and easy-to-use APIs for quick integration, merchants can get started quickly and securely, allowing their customers to dip, tap, and swipe. Our favorite thing here on the podcast.
Absolutely.
I need everybody to come up with fun TikTok type meme sounding
for dip tap
stuff. I don't know if you'll ever intend this. They're probably just like, will these guys please stop talking about some TikTok dance that they're never going to do. They're trying to sell devices here. ELO View Device Management, Essential Edge Enterprise Support, ELO Care Protection. The ELO Pay 7-inch POS system is ready to deliver on your customers' needs. Contact the BlueStar ELO team to learn more. This episode of the TEConnect podcast is brought to you by Zebra, sponsors of the latest BlueStar Nation end user survey. As we talked about in the episode, this time we went out and spoke to 100 field service employers to learn about the mobile devices that they provide for their technicians and on-the-go staff. We asked how many offer consumer versus enterprise devices, what made them choose one over the other, what challenges did their staff encounter with the devices, are they managing remotely or utilizing CBRS networks? Lots of good stuff that you're going to want to dig.
All kinds of good stuff.
Dig deep into.
Absolutely.
And find some interesting ideas here.
Another great article.
Exactly. The article answers all of those questions and more, along with a summary of takeaways and suggestions for using the data to find new mobility opportunities. Check out the link in the show notes and subscribe to BlueStar Nation.